Welcome back. Episode 52, New Year, 2026.
What's up, everybody? Should I do it? Should I do it like that?
Yeah,
We go
do it.
PG. We
Do
start
it.
PG, or does it feel
New
weird?
Year. New Year.
Yeah, okay, we'll start PG. We're
It does
Kenny,
not that way.
Kenny, you inspired us. We're gonna be better. We're gonna try to be better.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. What's up, shitbags? Welcome back. New year, new seasons, new episodes. Thank you to everybody. Again, we'll get thank yous out of the way. One more year. I mean, we just made another folder, so I think we've been a part of like 4 years now. So it's been pretty awesome to be doing this for this long now. Huge thank you to everybody. Huge thank you to all of our sponsors who are continuing throughout the years. Toxic Suppression, Jobtown Graphics, Taylor's Tins, Crew First Culture. Just amazing people. Could not be here without him. Could not be starting another year, another season. But yeah, it was awesome. Hope everybody had a great holiday season.
Yeah. What was one gift that you liked, Bryce?
Rick, I don't even know. I got a Blackstone. That was cool.
What?
Like all the kits for my Blackstone. But
what
was one gift you got, Brennan? Besides the new setup.
New setup, yeah. Sorry. The view's kind of shitty, but
all right. We've got plenty of yapping that we do at the end of the year. You could have said we could have done this all last year. Nah, let's jump right into it and get our guest, everyone who's actually here to listen to. Let's bring in Marc in. Marc, how's it going?
Hey, Marc, how's it going?
Good, man. Good.
Awesome. Well, Marc, why don't you go ahead and get us started? Give a little introduction about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Marc Aloan. I run the, I guess you call it blog, article, factory, whatever you want to call it, The Fire Inside. I think this is actually going to be my 10th year doing that. I realized the other day, which is wild. It's been quite the journey. So, but yeah, I started as a volunteer when I was 17 years old in my hometown in upstate New York. Attempted to be a paramedic, was too immature to go to college at that point in my life. Ended up in the Air Force for 4 years. Went everywhere I didn't want to go. Ended up in the South in Georgia, which was quite the transition, being an upstate New Yorker for the bulk of my life to that point. So I volunteered here while I was still in the Air Force, and I was very fortunate. I was given an opportunity to go career in 2007. So I worked for Columbia County, Georgia, which is right outside of Augusta, which is pretty much, other than Atlanta, the only place anybody knows in Georgia for the Masters.
Yeah.
So I was here for 12 years, and I had another opportunity to go to where I am now in West Columbia, South Carolina. I took a lateral up there in 2019 and rode the rig there for a while. Get another opportunity, became a battalion chief, and here we are. And somewhere in that mix of fire service, leapfrog, I started writing some stuff and blogging some stuff, and now I've been able to go teach all over the place, and just really cool opportunities. Probably a lot of things that I honestly don't deserve, but I'm fortunate to have, and met some cool people along the way, and ended up places like here. We talked about earlier. My buddy Jeremy Sanders gave me the nod. Another great dude with a great platform. So just love doing this stuff, man. I try to be humble about it because my thing I've been saying for a long time is I'm just like everybody else. I'm a nobody from nowhere. I just love the job. That's all there is to it.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. Like you said, taking that battalion chief position, relatively new. What would be your best advice for a new fire officer?
Ooh, a new fire officer. Wow. There's a lot of things I think out there for it, but I think my biggest thing for the new fire officer is just be yourself. I think a lot of people try to emulate, their mentors or the people they look up to, or the officers they've had, sometimes good and sometimes to a fault. And it can kind of steer you wrong. I think I was guilty of that a lot of time in my career, just kind of being somebody I wasn't, or trying to be something that I wasn't. So it's going to derail you more than it's going to help you. Eventually it's going to get exposed. You're going to default, to what what you like.
Yeah.
And I'd say be yourself, because, your guys are looking at you for the example. They're not stupid. They know what you're into, what you're not into. They know what you're good at, what you're not good at. And so when you try to bring in that fraudulent version of trying to appease people, it's just a recipe for disaster, not only for you, but for your guys too. And that's the best way to start eroding trust, maybe not like, friend trust, but on the fire ground where, do I really want to follow this guy? Cause, I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. I always said that, I'm an engine guy at heart. I understand the truck mission, but I'm like Rudy, truck mentality in the wrong body for that mission. So, but somebody's got to ride the engine. Somebody's got to put the fire out. So I always enjoyed that, and I own that. And I think these days lately, being an engine guy is turned into some unglamorous thing. It's like everybody to ride the rescue or the truck company or do something special. I mean, that's cool if that's your thing, but it's okay to ride the engine too. So if you're going to be into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think going back to, with your advice, this other hand of it that you hear everywhere you go is as soon as people get promoted, they change into a whole different person.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's something, like you said, that really establishes that trust right off the bat, is like, hey, if you walk out that door a firefighter and your first shift as a lieutenant, you're that same person. People are going to respect that. But you walk in that first day and you've done that 180 and it's like, who is this person? I think that starts rubbing people the wrong way right away. Yeah,
I think you got, I think the harder part is actually for people like, it's like you two, right? If you work together, right, and all of a sudden Bryce becomes, lieutenant tomorrow, like you have to change a little bit, right? Now your mentality can't change, like your values shouldn't change, but a lot of the time people have these weird expectations where, the company officer, the chief needs to do all the things they did when they were a brand new firefighter every day, plus this, plus this, plus that. And it's just not realistic. And if your point of view is, from that, from the back seat, sometimes for better or worse, you make these unachievable expectations for your officers and you don't understand the bigger picture of it. So, I can tell you when I was a new battalion chief, I still did a lot of the same things I did when I was a captain because that's what I knew. That's what I was comfortable with. And, the circumstances with staffing at the time allowed me to do that. But, as I've, hopefully matured a little bit in my role and I've been given more responsibility, more things to do, I can't do those things every day. Like I guarantee if you listen to some podcasts I did probably a year or two ago, it was like, man, every shift I go out there and we do mask up in the morning and I pull lines. And like at the time, man, that's what I was into. That's what I was doing. I'm still into that stuff. But like, I don't necessarily have the time in the day because, for better or worse, my organization doesn't pay me to be the best mask up guy in the department now. They pay me to be a good manager of my fire scenes and take care of my guys and get them what they need. So, those things are still important to me. I still like to do that. Those are things that I incorporate when I have time. But, when the fire chief tells me, hey, man, we need to get this done today, I'm not going in there like, sorry, chief, we got mask up drills at 9, so I'll pencil you in for 9:30. It doesn't work that way. So to your point, like absolutely, like your values should not change. Your drive for the job, the way you think the job should be done, might evolve a little bit, but like I think everybody else involved needs to realize you're going to have to change a little bit. Now, how you navigate that is whether you alienate them in the process or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping on the kind of same thing now that you're settled down into that battalion chief, you guys ride the car as a battalion chief?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm settled, by the way. I'm getting a little more comfortable.
You got your feet wet. Your feet are wet.
No, we're in the car by ourselves. No man's land.
So when you take command on a fire scene, do you prefer to take it from inside or outside, and why?
So we operate inside the car. That's just kind of we do blue card, to a point. I'm not going to say we're the blue card factory. It's definitely not, word for word how they do it, but that's our main concept. And blue card gets a bad name in a lot of ways, and it is what it is. You make of it what you make of it. I think what people need to understand too before we go into this is that there's from an administrative standpoint, there's very few programs out there with quote unquote certification or something measurable for training on incident command like that. So you've got one or two programs out there, and then you've got in-house stuff. So for a lot of places, that's why you end up there, with that as your model. I could see it both ways, man. I worked places, I volunteered places where, the incident commander was in the front yard with their helmet on. I don't know why, because there's no hazards in the front yard, but whatever, in a traffic vest where there's no traffic. So moving on, in a portable radio, and that's the old school way of doing it. And I get it. But I also know that I am like a moth to a flame if I'm outside the car, right? I'm gonna see a kink in a line. I'm gonna have to go correct it, right? I'm gonna see somebody I haven't seen. I'm gonna have to go give them a high five or something, right? My mind is gonna drift, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse from that incident. So, I prefer what I'm finding for me. It's funny. I had a fire my last shift, an aid fire. I was the accountability officer, so I'm in the car talking to the other chief, and we were going back and forth about this very thing because he didn't really have a great vantage point. Like he couldn't spot where we could see the buildings. He's like, man, I hate this. I can't really see what's going on.
Yeah.
And so what I've kind of settled on right now at this point with a few fires under my belt in that role is that, I get there, I try to park somewhere that's not hateful, but where I can kind of see the building the best I can, but I try to leave the best spots for the guys, right? Like their positioning matters more than me. I'm out immediately. I'm doing my 360. And then I get back in the car and I get organized, and then I'm calling, the first due officer, and I'm getting his can report, and then I'm going from there. We're very blessed in that most of our stuff gets there quick. So I have like a really hectic 5 to 7 first minutes because I'm getting, 6 companies really, really fast. I'm trying to manage what they're doing and who arrived in what order and what assignment they're taking. So I have a lot of trust in our officers at that point, depending on my 360, right? Like they tell me they're good, they're operating fine, man. That's what we pay you to do. When things go bad, you'll tell me, we'll adjust. And so I'm trying to get my stuff out. I'm trying to check my boxes. I'm trying to manage my resources. I'm making sure I got enough coming. And then usually for us in that, like around that 10-minute mark, things kind of settle down a little bit. If they're going well, if they're not going well, it's not going to settle down. And so based on their traffic, based on what I'm seeing, from what I can see, if I can see with the conditions, I kind of hang out in the car. But at some point by that 10-minute mark, what I've settled on is I like to get out and do a lap again. I need to go see what they're saying. I need to see what the conditions have changed from my 360, right? From what I heard their size up, from what I saw, and then the information I'm getting. And I'm trying to log that in my head. And as I go back out and try to do another lap, I'm comparing that to, what in my mind am I imagining is going on at this fire based on the radio traffic? And then does it match up when I get out of the car? Is the conversion right? Are conditions actually getting better? Are the guys staged where I think they are? Is the line where I think it is? And then I kind of go back to the car and I'm adjusting again. And I think what guys, if I don't know, other battalion chiefs might say I'm an idiot, right? And what I'm saying right now doesn't make sense. I don't know, but I think what people need to understand too is that like the main incident commander, right? Like my job is definitely to watch that building, right? My job is to watch conditions to make sure that tactics being applied are accurate. But like I'm also managing the scene, so I have other things going on. I'm managing resources. I'm managing coverage for stations. Do I have enough people at the scene? Do I need somebody on deck? All those kind of things. So it's a lot more than just, me. If I were to sit there and just watch the building the whole time and micromanage how you're advancing your hose line and pulling ceiling, like you'd be pissed about that too, right? So you're kind of in a lose-lose situation as the IC. You can't do anything right for the guys in the building. And, one thing two things really that I've realized now being in the car that I didn't quite understand as a company officer, I don't think, is that it's definitely a time thing. Your 5 minutes and my 5 minutes are completely different clocks because I'm sitting there not working and it seems like it's been going on for 3 days and you've just finally got the line where you wanted it, right? Or you've got your ladder where you want it. You finally made this window. You finally pulled some ceiling and here I am, keying up the radio to bother you again. And now I'm taking away 30 seconds of work for you because you got to friggin' find your mic and key it up and, yell at me in mumbles. And I got to tell you, I can't hear you. And then you got to try again. We do all that. So that's one thing that I try really hard to be mindful of is like, when I, if you're the first officer, you're already expecting when I key up, right? I want a condition report, right? And then I'm going to leave you alone. But if I ask you for something, I'm not going to immediately call back and say, hey, is it done yet? I know there's a lag time there and it's really hard to manage when you're not working. The other thing, I never appreciated it as a company officer. In fact, I used to think I was doing some kind of favor for the IC. And now as an IC, I hate it. It's like, I hate when people come to the car. Like I used to think I was doing somebody a favor by staying off the radio and doing this face-to-face. And now I realize that every time somebody comes to that window, I am now distracted from whatever I was doing. And I have to talk to you and get what you're saying. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. And I still do it. Like I said, I still do it as if I'm going to, if I'm on safety or something, or if I'm the division and I come out, I'm going to go to the car and have a face-to-face, but I stand back, right? Like now I'm watching, like, is he on the radio? Is he drawing something on his, his command sheet? Is he on the phone? And then I kind of keep my distance, but man, I used to think I was such a hero to the incident commander going up the car and have a face-to-face off the radio. Now I'm like, man, they must have cussed me every time. Nobody would have told me about it. So
awesome. Yeah, it's great to hear about kind of everyone's angles on it, because that was such a hot topic. I think in the last year that really kind of came around, that everyone's asking that. So it's kind of cool, because although I'm sure almost everybody in the conversation did kind of what you said with that mix, no one's ever really gone through that mix that you do of like staying in the car, but then at least getting out and doing that walk around to kind of check conditions. It's kind of like, I'm staying in the car, or I'm going to the front door or the front lawn. Like there was the only answers there. So it's cool that you kind of found that happy middle ground.
Yeah, and I can't. My big thing is I just can't hear when I'm in the yard, man. There's air horns. There's 5,000 radios. There's SCBA going off for somebody that is doing the dance and they can't get to reset. And I have a hard enough time hearing in the car, man. Like, maybe embarrassing, right? Maybe I'm just getting old, but like, there's a lot of times where I literally have to just close my eyes to, like, if it's somebody that's having trouble, like there's a lot of background noise or static, or they're not holding their mic right, their interior on air. Sometimes I really just have to sit there and say, hey, repeat. And I close my eyes to literally focus my only sense on hearing. And I don't know how, more power to these guys that are able to do it out of the back of the car, in the yard. I'm not saying I can. I've done, we've trained on doing it out of the back of the car. And on a bigger incident, I get that, right? If you have a giant warehouse or commercial property, like, yeah, you probably got to have a forward command post at that point. And we have the ability to do that now. We have a big command board with wheels that we can pull out. We have a big slide out we can do from the back of the truck that's got all these radio heads and stuff. But for these guys to do it on single family, man, like, hey, if that works for you, cool. I'm not going to knock it, right? Like, that's, if you're successful, cool. I'm very new to this whole, battalion chief thing as far as I'm concerned. But, like I said, for me, that's how I was trained. So it's comfortable. So that's probably why I like it better than the other options. But having been outside the car, like, I don't know how they do it, man. Like I said, the mix seems to be the answer.
Oh, that's a good perspective. Like, I find myself, I don't get through the chief or the officer in like 3 radio calls. I go up to them. But I guess if they can't hear either, and they're more focused on the fire, as a company officer, they're watching your guys, and they're like, he's not paying attention to the radio, like, or you can't hear the radio, I should say. So I find myself going up to him. But I understand if people come up to you and you're like, oh, I'm less lost where I was going now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and if you're like us, one thing we noticed, especially we found it, we did live burns, the end of last year, and we kind of found it too. And it's really good advice for the guys that aren't the officers, right? Everybody doesn't need their radio on volume 10, because then when you key up and you're next to each other, all I hear is that awful squawk that nobody knows who it is. So, you need your radio on, is the nozzle men, right? Is the search crew, anybody, if you're not leading a team of people at that point, just your radio just needs to be on. If you get in trouble, it's still going to transmit, right? You'll be able to hear me when you're, if you can't move or something goes wrong, you can always turn it up later. But I would just get in the habit of keeping it lower than your officer to avoid that, because that's probably over 50% of the radio issues I have is, somebody keys up and it's squawking off. The other one is, when their fancy Bluetooth isn't connected and they forgot how to talk on the mic, or, they're just, and I get it, man. Like when you're hanging out at 180 because you just advanced hose, 35 feet around hoarder conditions, it's really easy for me to say, hey, take a breath and calm down and speak slowly. No, you're amped up, right? Like what you're saying, again, it goes back to time. What you're saying seems like it's coming out easy, and in the car, all I hear is, and man, we did it in the fire the other night. Me and the first aid chief. Somebody keyed up. He looked at me. I looked at him. He goes, "What did he say?" I'm like, "I don't know."
Beats me. Awesome. Still sticking on now away from the fire ground, but now more your everyday to-day operations on shift. How do you facilitate training on shift?
I don't know, man. I kind of got to a point, and for full disclosure, my situation's a little different, right? So my fire department only has 1 station, and I have 2 captains in the house. So it's not like I have 5 stations to go visit every day. Most of my, battalion level work is really operational, right? It's when we go on calls, it's in the incident command function. So in the firehouse, I could easily be the role of station captain if I really want to, but I try to just let my captains do it. Now we have a pretty robust training plan. When we come in, there's something on the schedule for the day to complete, something the department wants done, and there's usually a video or a syllabus of what we need to go out and train on out in the field or whatever. So their day is pretty set up for them. And then we have captain choice days. And, obviously if you need to train on something else or your guys need some training, that's on you to figure it out. So I really try to let the captains do their thing, man. I try not to micromanage. I try to go out with them as I can, and again, being small, I have a lot of administrative roles that maybe a 20 station department battalion chief doesn't have, right? Like I'm doing procurement. I'm the assets guy. I'm incorporating new systems. I'm QC, QI, like all these unsexy things that nobody wants to talk about. They're like, I just said that and like 5 people turned off this podcast. Like, ew, when you said procurement, yeah, whatever, we're done. So, but I will say that, last year I really tried to do a lot more at that level. And I think it hurt me as far as being in tune with my guys. So like my mission this year, again, and not every training, but when I know they have a training topic for the day, I want to go out with them. My goals that I have set for us this year is that, once a month, I want to do some kind of a first due drill with them, whether it's going out to a building and we talk shop, or I just come out and say, hey, everybody, including me, this is our target. We're all going to stretch a line to this door, right? Or we're all going to mask up together. It doesn't have to be an 8-hour ordeal. I'm looking at 15, 20, 30-minute evolutions where everybody on the crew, including myself, because again, if I don't know how long it takes to do something, how can I command you to do it, right? How can I, if I tell you to stretch the 300 to the Charlie side and I don't know that takes 2.5 minutes or, it's probably way too long, but, or I ask you to do it in 5 minutes has passed and you're still working on it, I need to know something's wrong, right? Or you need to be giving me a reason. So, that, and I don't want to lose my firefighter skills, right? I laugh and, knock on wood here, hopefully I don't chase myself, but everybody's one bad decision away from, being in the back seat again once you start promoting. So to sit there and say that I'm a battalion chief and I'm never going to stretch a line again, I mean, that's BS, man. And, I still teach all over the place and, I still love being a fireman. So why would you not want to do those things? I'm sure football coaches, throw passes to some of their guys at practice once in a while, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I try to leave them alone, man. I try to put a lot of, and again, it's based on my captains too. It's based on trust. It's based on experience. So I try to let them do their thing. If I notice things on calls that aren't really going how I think they should go, I have a conversation and just ask, why are we doing it this way? And sometimes it's by design, right? Sometimes they say, hey, this is how I want it done. We have a conversation. Sometimes we agree to disagree. My perspective is not the only perspective. And at the end of the day, those guys they're doing it, right? I'm not. So I kind of try to give them some leeway. If it's something we need to adjust, I'll try to train. But as far as I'm concerned now, my role is just checking in to make sure that A, the training is getting done, B, what they're training on makes some kind of sense. And it's not some off the wall YouTube tactic that nobody approved. And then really, I just kind of sit off in the back, man. I'll take reps. I try to go first if nobody wants to, just to, put that out there that you can fail. And then it's more just me trying to, hey, also, consider this, just sprinkle a little bit of, I don't want to call it wisdom because I don't feel like I'm that old, but right. But a little experience or perspective sometimes on things. And then, there's just a lot of things, man. The job has changed a lot since I came on. We went out and we did some highline training the other day, and like rope is probably my weakest discipline. So in that scenario, I sat there and asked a lot of questions and let the guys who know how it's going tell me why they were doing what they were doing, why it worked, why it didn't work. And now from an incident command perspective, I have a much better understanding of what they're doing, what it should look like, right, when it's going right, and then how long it's going to take, the resources they need. So it's kind of a mix, right? Sometimes I'm trying to be involved, and other times I'm watching from afar, and other times I'm still very much a student of things that we just didn't do when I was on the truck. It's just a different journey now.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
Last question that we have for you specifically before Brennan's got the generic ones for you. What does your first due seat assignments look like?
Okay. So you're asking like, what are our guys? If they're first due on a scene, what are they doing based on seats on the truck kind of thing?
Yep.
Okay. So we operate under a huge aid system. Again, we're small. So we operate with, another municipality regularly, and then a special purpose district, which if anybody's not familiar, it's like a town without being a town. Essentially, it's just like, they pay taxes for services, but it's not a town or a city. And then we operate with a big county department. So collectively, we have a playbook. And I know some people like that. Some people don't like that. Sometimes it works really well. Sometimes it doesn't, right? It all depends on the scenario. So our first alarm is drawn out, first due engine, second due, third due, fourth due engine. I'll have a predetermined assignment absent of a chief arriving and making a huge change in trajectory of how that incident goes. So if we're first due for our engine company, we prioritize water supply as a department. So their job on the way to the call, really, I'll start with the company officer, right? Company officer is reading the call notes. They're spotting water supply with their MDT. They're communicating that to myself. And then if it's something where they're going to split or the direction needs the next engine to grab it instead, which is a deviation from what we normally do, they're announcing that on the radio. They're communicating with their guys in the back. They're making their play. They're looking at, if we have a pre-plan for commercial, they should be trying to look at that. And then, Google Maps, whatever, just trying to get a layout of the house. That works when you have a 6-minute response time. It doesn't work when we took a left and we're here. So, this is where just kind of knowing your area and having a plan comes in place. The driver job obviously is to know where they're going, right? The way we operate, and this went back when I was on the engine still, we used to have 4 on our engine. We now have 3, and we used to have a hydrant man, which, if we have staffing now, we do. If we don't, we don't. But we found worked better for water supply was that our engineer will actually get out, wrap the hydrant, and go. That way somebody with the air pack isn't stumbling outside the truck. There's no communication. He left too soon. He didn't leave soon enough. Somebody got left behind, and it's just so much faster because I know a lot of places they want their drivers, decked out and stuff. Our drivers first due are not operating in the building most times, so they're not wearing gear. So he's off the truck. He wraps his hydrant. He gets back in. We go. Under 30 seconds for that evolution. Most times it works for us. It may not work for everybody, but for us, that's how it works. They arrive. Depending on the discretion of the captain, the first due driver may assist with the stretch, depending on where it is, what it's going. We like to, our hose lines are set up where, one man should be able to deploy them. So, if the driver wants help, cool. If not, and then their job's self-explanatory, man. They're charging lines. They're getting water supply established. If they can get done with all that, sometimes they'll throw ladders, they'll drop tools. They're just kind of listening to the radio, being a rover at some point. We don't really chain them to the pump panel anymore. But I also don't want you hanging out on the Charlie side making YouTube videos. Where I can find you kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the backseat guy, right, their job is just to pull a hose line, right? That's, depending on their experience level, it might be where the company officer tells them to go. If they've been doing it a while, it might be, hey, I trust you, put this line where you think it should go and be ready for me when I come back. The officer's doing a 360. Whether I'm there or not, we want all our officers doing 360s just so they have a layout of the building. They're looking for obvious rescues, obvious hazards. If we do 360s, who cares, right? Much better picture at that point. And then they're going forward. As far as our ladder is concerned, we're at optimal staffing. They have 4 at, minimum staffing. They have 3. So we tend to break it up into 2 teams. You have the officer and the one that sits behind them. We call the irons guy. Their main job is search, soften the building, get inside, do stuff. And then the driver, and if we have the 4th, that's the vent position for us, OV position. So they're going to make another team. They'll be the Bravo team. They're going to operate outside. They're going to force entry. If they can get some utilities, cool. They're the ones that are going to go to the roof and cut if we need vertical vent. And then, depending on the size of the building, depending on what's going on, if there's reported trapping or not, that company officer, they're coming over the radio and telling me, hey, we're going to split. We're going to be all in, which is all in the building searching, or we're going to be all up, which is they're going to be on the roof doing vent ops. So those are our main first 2 plays. And obviously, then the call happens and it all goes out the window.
Yeah.
Life happens and we do crazy stuff. But, I went as far when I was a company officer, and I mean, maybe it's overboard. Somebody will listen to this and say, what a micromanager, but it's really not. But I kind of had a list and I broke it down to the major call types. I in some of my classes, I show this, but it's like, hey, if we go to a cardiac arrest call today, this is what I'm grabbing. This is what the driver's grabbing. This is what the back seat's grabbing. And by doing that, what it prevents is that when we pull up on scene and I'm trying to go on scene and give a report and dispatch is like, oh, stand by. There's an EMS unit trying to clear the hospital. I need to talk to them over you. My backseat guy can still bail. and he knows that he grabs the med bag and the cardiac monitor. There's no question about it. When I get off the truck, I grab the Lucas and the suction or the oxygen bag, whatever it might be, right? He doesn't have to wait for me now. He knows what he's grabbing. He knows his job. When we get inside, they know that I'm going to be the scribe. You're going to be the primary provider. The driver is going to be the guy handing you equipment. It just helps it going in order when things are chaotic. Yeah. So I would draw that out for all the call types. And again, it's subject to change. Obviously, as the officer, if I decide to do something different, it'll be different. But what that goes back to is that I had a lot of new firefighters in my back seat, and we would get to these calls, and either they wouldn't bring something to the call, right? We'd be at an alarm, and I'd turn around and be like, hey, man, where's the can? Oh, I didn't bring the can. You didn't tell me to bring the can. I'm like, okay. You know, or we get on a med call, and somebody say, hey, where's the suction? Well, I thought you grabbed it. I thought he grabbed it. So I just got to the point where I was like, hey, if it's a normal run-of-the-mill call, you know, to start with, this is the things that you should have with you. And if we need to adjust, it's easier to adjust from normal later than have to plan it out every time you arrive.
Yeah.
You know, I found it helpful. Maybe it is, maybe it not. I found like we forgot less things and we were a little bit more organized. There's a lot less chatter going back and forth when we did it that way.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Cool. Well, here's some of the generic questions. First one is, why are we here? Just what it is. You go wherever you want to go with.
Why are we here? Man, you know, it's actually a really good question these days because the fire service has just drifted so much mission-wise. And depending where you go and depending who you talk to, you'll get the generic protect life and property from the perils of blah, 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 you know, something you recite so you don't have to run laps around the building when you're new. And then you'll get the, you know, the casual conversations where, you know, some people think, hey, we're only here to fight fires. And then you got other people that think that we're here to build ramps to people's houses and do food drives. And, you know, all that stuff is cool, man. And I don't, people will take this wrong. This is what I hate today. You can't say anything today without somebody grabbing it the wrong way. And, oh, well, Marc Aloan was on his podcast and said that we shouldn't be building ramps to people's houses. And he doesn't, you know, appreciate it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that a lot of these things that are now the expectation of the fire department used to be things that guys kind of got together on their off time with their own funds and kind of said, hey, Mrs. Smith down the road definitely, you know, won't be able to fix the door we just forced on her own. She doesn't have any money. And it's not to say that because Mark can afford it, you know, you shouldn't do it for me. It's just saying that we used to recognize the difference between people who couldn't help themselves at all for whatever reason and people that could. And so maybe we would get off shift in the morning and, you know, I would go to Home Depot and buy the supplies, and Brennan's good at construction. So he'd bring the tools, and, you know, Bryce is a good laborer. So we'd all get together and we'd go fix Mrs. Smith's door. And we didn't have to put it on YouTube. And we didn't have to put it on Facebook, and we didn't need to go to City Hall and tell them about it. We just did it because it was the right thing. You know, I have pictures to this day of one of my guys pumping gas for somebody that we went to the gas station one day to get snacks or something after a call. And there was somebody out there, they needed gas, they didn't have any money, or their debit card wouldn't run. So we put $10 of gas in their car. I got a picture of him pumping it so I can give him crap later. And and that's all there was to it, right? It wasn't this thing. So, you know, why are we here? I put it down to help people, man. And that's where I leave it. Make it as informal or as formal as you need it to be for your area. I kind of find when we make things formal, they become forced, and then we alienate people from actually wanting to help people because now they're forced to help them. And I think there's a difference between helping people who cannot help themselves and then just helping everybody because we're scared that if we don't, somebody's going to say something. It's kind of like, you know, there's controversy, I'll call it, you know, with the smoke detector programs. If I go to a McMansion at 3 a.m, why am I giving you free smoke detectors? And again, is that fair? I don't know. Maybe you inherited that house and you can't even pay the taxes on it. I don't know. I'm not here to judge you, right? I'm going to do it anyway. I'm just saying, you know, I think sometimes we put these programs in place and we don't see how out of hand they get a lot of time. And I think on the flip side, as far as we go as firefighters, all these initiatives look really good on paper, but when you don't work 24, 48 or 96 hours in a row, you don't understand how 10 minutes here and 30 minutes there adds up into no time to relax, no time to train, no time to catch up on reports, no time to do maintenance. And we like to think, you know, all these people have this time in the day because our metrics are based on call numbers, right? Well, why don't we base it on hours? I don't care if you guys ran 10 calls yesterday and I ran 20, how many hours did you operate? Because my 20 calls might have been canceled en route. And your 10 might have been 3 working fires, 4 cardiac arrests and 3 wrecks, whatever you want to do. And so you operated for 16 out of your 24 hours, and I was actually assigned to a call for 3 out of my 24 hours. It's a different metric. And we, you could take this data and slice it however you want. You could take this data and make it support whatever view you have, man. People have been screwing with data since the term since data used to be in books. We used to just tear pages out and say, oh, that didn't happen,
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I mean, maybe that's a big word salad answer to just, we're just here to help people and just figure out how to do that. And if I would give any, especially the newer generation, man, like, stop doing things for freaking likes and shares. Like if that's what you're here for, go somewhere else, man. That's not what we do here. Yeah. And if you do that though, you're going to screw yourself at some point because you're, it's just like, the new guys with the cameras and stuff, man. Like I have a GoPro on my windshield. You know how often I remember to turn it on before the incident is over? Like never, because I'm looking at my MDT. I'm listening to radio traffic. I'm driving myself to the call. I'm watching traffic. I'm changing siren. Like, if that thing came on with the car, I'd be much more successful. If you're asking me to remember to turn it on, man, I'm not going to remember. But that's the first thing a lot of these guys, and again, I'm not saying my department, but things I've seen over time where, but they're reaching in the rig to hit their GoPro on before they're even putting their hood on. Like that's a problem, man.
Yeah.
I've got a big problem with that.
Yeah. I think and something my BC talks about all the time with like this, why you hear that, like you're talking about just how people is, we're here to take calls. Like I think every time you show up to work, the list gets longer of like these chores or these tasks, or like you said, these special things that've got to get done. And at the end of the day, if you show up and you run nothing but nonstop calls all day, those tasks are still going to be there to do the next day.
Yep.
Like you don't have to get those done. You have to take calls. That's the whole reason that we're here.
Yes. And the task thing is funny too. I've had people laugh before. I mean, and again, it is what it is. I mean, this is not a knock on my department at all, but like we have a list of like, hey, on Monday, these are the extra things I have to get done. People are like, oh, you have to have a list. Your culture is horrible. It's like, no, man. Like sometimes the guys just get busy and they forget that, Saturday is a day we make sure that the station generator has fuel in it. And while that's a busy work task, I guess it is until the freaking power goes out. We don't have Wi-Fi and our radio system's down, some of these things are important. Right now it's flu season. Everybody's sick. So I guess deconning the station every morning seems a little more important when everybody's sick around you versus another day. And that stuff doesn't take long if you do it. The problem now is that people have decided that some of these tasks are beneath them or they're not important. And again, I'm with you, dude. Like if my guys run sun up to sundown, I really don't care if the bay got mopped today. I really don't, because we'll grab it tomorrow. But the issue is that when we decide as collectively that that's not important anymore, then the station looks like crap. Then the drains get clogged. Then and then it's just a domino effect. So, if people would just come to work, this is the other thing, man. Like, and again, there's a lot of volunteers on the planet still. And I started as a volunteer. I love it. But even as a volunteer, like when you're at the firehouse, you're at the firehouse. If you're a paid fireman, like that's your job. You don't go to McDonald's and decide like, oh, no, I'm just here to flip burgers today. I'm not going to sweep and mop the dining room, right? I'm not refilling the napkins. I'm not getting anything out of the freezer. That's not my job. Well, you're on the clock at the fire department, right? If part of your day is cleaning the station, then just do it. You spend more time complaining about it, but again, at the same time, get your butt down the road. This is the other part of it. You can't sit there and say, oh, we're just here to run calls. And then the tones drop and you're like, what is it? It's get your ass in the truck.
Who's it for? Who's it for?
It doesn't matter.
Who's this? Whatever.
God forbid you put your turnout gear on and have to take it back out. God forbid you pull out on the apron and have to whip it around the back of the station. I mean, I get it, man. A lift assist at 3 a.m. is a lift assist at 3 a.m. But I don't know, man. I just always found a way to have fun. I mean,
oh my God,
calls.
You've got to.
It's just
you gotta make the best of everything because you're there.
I think go ahead.
I mean, I think it it's probably our generation's fault too, because you're starting to see it more of like you're saying, the absolute flip side of that is the people that come into work and don't want to do the work. Like,
well, I'll debunk that for you right now. It is not your generation. You know how I know that? Because when I was new, I worked with and for people that had been on for 15, 20, 25 years that already had that attitude. So where did you think the new guys learned it from? Because if your senior guys are coming in and saying, hey, shut your mouth and get on the truck, that becomes a learned behavior. But when your boss is sitting at the table, oh, we got to go here. And look, man, I am guilty of all this. Please don't take this the wrong way. I am no saint. I have cussed plenty of call types. I have cussed plenty of frequent flyers. But you come to peace with it at some point. It's a maturity thing. It's like I used to work on the ambulance part-time, man, and like we went through a run where it's like, oh, man, like we just got to get them to refuse. We don't want to transport them. Well, all that does is give me more paperwork and less time to do it and no free snacks in the EMS room. So I just got to a point where I was like, man, like I work on this ambulance. People call me to bring them to the hospital. It is not my job to decide whether or not they're worthy of that trip. So I'm going to take your vital signs. I'm going to be nice to you. I'm going to make you comfortable. I'm going to bring you to the hospital. I'm going to take my 20-minute ER time to do my paperwork, have a Coke and a smile, shut my mouth, and go run the next call. And if I don't like that, I just don't work here anymore. Like that's what it comes down to.
Cool. How should we look at failures?
Failures are our greatest opportunity. We live in a society now that is so scared of failure that I think it makes more mistakes. I have learned 5,000% more from failure than I've ever learned in a success. Because failure, if you think about this for a minute, if you really reach back, you will remember your worst fire more than your best fire. You will remember the fire where everything went wrong because you felt like crap. You felt embarrassed. You felt defeated. You felt like you let people down. Whereas when things go really good, you get a high five about it. You share, you brag for a minute, and then you move on to the next one. And it's the same thing with bosses. Like the bad bosses will always stick in your mind better than the good ones. And that sucks because it shouldn't, right? It should be the opposite. Yeah. We actually had this, excuse me. I had this epiphany last year, man. Like, we do things at work called counseling forms. And, a counseling form is I guess it's disciplinary paperwork. It's not supposed to be. It's just supposed to be a documentation of behavior for record later, right? It's not supposed to be punitive. It's not supposed to be like an HR thing. But a lot of the time it just became a precursor to discipline. It was like, hey, this is on the map. Don't do this anymore. It's going to be a real thing. And I just had this epiphany, man. Like, why do we look for failure in people on that angle, right? Like, why are we looking for people to screw up? Why don't we look for when people do good too? So I've started trying to really give out some counseling forms like, Bryce, you came in today and nobody asked you to train the probie on how to throw ground letters. You did it on your own. So I'm giving you a counseling form that says, hey, keep this up, man. Like, this is a good thing. And now when I do your eval, I have something in paper, which we love so much in the HR world, to go back to and say, hey, this is the one time Bryce did something wrong, but here's the 7 times that he did something right or did something without being asked, and it kind of offsets it. So, I think failure is necessary. I think failure is important, but I think we overly focus on it. And I think our litmus test of failure is just so severe now, man. It's like we want to pick every single thing apart. And at the end of the day, it's okay to go to a fire and everything doesn't go quite as planned. And look, man, there's always going to be ways to improve, but I don't like the fire went out and everyone went home, so it was a great fire. I hate that mentality, right? But some days that's actually a success. Some days when everything goes wrong and you overcome it, it's okay. That shouldn't be your goal, right? That shouldn't be the low bar that you have of success. But, I think sometimes we get so far in the weeds and it's like, man, our benchmark for masking up is 30 seconds and Mark was at 31.2 seconds per the GoPro. And this is just unacceptable. Like, what are we talking about at that point? I mean, I get it drifts, right? Then you get to 35 and 40, but everybody has an off day, man. Yeah. So if you take failure as your best learning tool, that's how it needs to exist. Now, the flip side of that is that you can't be a failure. We can't have you failing on every call. And then it's just like, don't worry, it's another learning point, Chief. No, man, you ain't learning like that. At some point,
it's learn too.
Yeah. And that's what training's for too. Like, that's my biggest thing. Like anytime I love being the first person
Yes.
to go. Because, and I know I do it because times that I get stuck like the 5th, 6th person and I'm getting to watch this, I'm sitting there and I'm watching, I'm going, ooh, oh yeah, I probably would have done that too. Like, oh yeah. Or like you see him do something, you're like, oh, totally forgot about that. Well, guess what? I'm not going to remember it next time because you just showed me it. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to be like, yep, I saw him do this. I remember I do this, and I do this. But if I go first and something's not working, I'm like, man, why isn't this working? All of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I totally forgot about that. It's like, hey, I guarantee you I'm not forgetting about that again. Like, as long as you can do just even little things like that, it's going to help you. But that's what I love about trainings. I love trying to be first whenever I can because I know I'm going to fail. Yeah, and then I can just be like, hey, sorry, my bad. I forgot on that part, but hey, we did it,
Well, imagine how crazy this too. I just thought about this, right? We are so scared to fail at training that people will literally like won't take a turn or stand back. But we're not scared to fail when it matters. Like when it's somebody, when it's in the community, we're like, oh, well, it's just a bad stretch, chief. No big deal. Where in training, it's like, we're so scared that we're going to eat our own. It's like, man, like what a twisted mentality, right? Like we should be much more fearful of failing in front of the public than we are in front of the guys that we work with every day. Yeah. So what, they're going to make fun of you a little bit, but I've literally watched people be more scared to fail in training. I've also watched people be torn apart more for a failure in training than a failure on the fire ground. If you botch a stretch at your live burn, you're never going to hear the end of it. What a crappy employee you are, how bad you suck. You botch a stretch on an actual house fire, and they're going to be like, well, the odds are really stacked against you. It's not your normal crew. You were on a trade. There was a fence. It's kind of weird how, man, what are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that wraps up the other questions that we're going to be able to get through. And now we've got the fun ones, how we end it. So we've got your question from all the way back in November would have been the episode with Tuna. And so Tuna got pretty deep with it. I've got some additional notes if you aren't familiar with his question. But if you know Tuna, we were talking about TRT. We were diving deep into mental, just fortitude, strength, and all that stuff that he loves so much. And so his question is, how can you explain moral injury to your guys and get a gauge on their mental health?
Man, talking about failure. I think I was set up for failure. It's the hardest follow-up question ever.
Oh, love that guy. He went deep on this. It was great.
So let me preface this with that I wouldn't even qualify myself to answer this question in any other, school of thought other than this forum, right? This is so far outside my wheelhouse. It's not even funny. Yeah, I think if I was going to explain moral injury, because to me, when I think moral injury, I go back to kind of the firehouse toxicity, right? And when people feel like the department is kind of drifting from their values, or the mission is drifting from why they got on the job in the first place. And it can happen at any level, right? It can happen at the peer level where I've had things where guys I came up with, and as we went our way in our career, we kind of drifted apart, right? And then they talk crap about you, and it's like, oh, that's a moral injury, I think, right? Yep. Your boy now bashing you for being in the job or something. I think it happens at the crew level, the shift level, every level you can have that. So I would say if I had to explain to my guys, it would essentially be where, something that you valued, the way you took the job, the way you thought it should be executed was challenged in a negative way that had a negative impact on how you view it now. So to I guess put that in an example form, right? Like, me and Brennan are on the truck together, and Brennan's really into hose stretches, and I'm his captain, and I just completely destroy him about why hose stretches don't matter and why this is just a job and that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And when he gets 20 years on, he'll realize that we're just trying to get to retirement. And, he's never been on a fire where that stretch mattered. Just get the hose off the and maybe that's a poor example, but it's the same thing when, we come into work and we try to operate in a way that puts the community first, and then a policy comes down. We feel like it challenges that, or, the city makes a decision and now we're not going to get a new truck, right? Or we're not going to get a piece of equipment. It's just where everything you have, especially, and again, I don't think this applies equally to the membership, because inevitably there are some people that are more into the job than others. And so one single decision can have a ripple effect. Some people be empowered by the decision, and some people feel like the department has completely failed them on the other end. And at my level, that's the hard part, right? How do I have to navigate. I have to support the decisions that the city and department made, right? That's my role, right? I'm not saying I'm going to gift wrap it. I'm not going to BS you, right? But I have to find a way to support that through my actions, right? Through the way we operate. I have to respect that. And then on the flip side, I have, the guys on the floor, and each one of them are going to take it differently. And I have to be able to to navigate how to acknowledge, right, their opinions and their feelings and their values, and then still find a way to navigate them back on track to where we're going, where the vision and the mission of the department is. I would love for him to hear my answer and tell me why it is trash and that it no way hit the mark whatsoever. What he asked.
I love it. I'll make sure I send him a message so he tunes in, but he was really excited to hear the answer.
I just think about, what is it, Billy Madison? What you just said was the dumbest thing ever. He awards you no points. God.
He gave you quite the deep question, and I think you navigated that very well.
Had notes, man. I mean,
had
notes.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Well, awesome. Now the last official part that we got for you is what some people feel the hardest is now you have to come up with a question. You don't have to go as deep as tuna if you don't want. You can. But your question will be for our next guest, who is Jonathan Jarvis, Lieutenant of Wichita Fire on Rescue 1.
Man, I told you I was going to think about this when we started. You know what? I have absolutely not done it all for the past hour. I have not thought about this at all. Oh, man. I think my question then will be this. What are you doing every day to put the department on the path to where you think it should go? And I say that because of this. I have noticed that we all have become very good at finding problems within our profession, within our organization. A lot of them are invented, if you ask me. I think people like to make problems just so they could get on here and run their mouth. So I try not to bring problems. But nobody has solutions. Or when they do have solutions and they start trying to implement them, they realize that either the problem is a little not as easy as they thought it was to begin with, right? Or that maybe their solution is not the solution, and they just kind of drop it and they don't pick up the ball and run with it. So my question then becomes, where is your department today, and what are you doing every day to put it on the path where you think it needs to be going, right? Because it's easy for me to come in and bash the fire chief and city hall and my company officers and the senior guys. Mm-hmm. But if my day consists of coming in, being reminded to do all my work every day, doing nothing to better myself or my people, and sitting in the bay or at the kitchen table, the recliner, and bitching all day, then I'm no better than any of them. And now I'm just a whiner and a complainer. So whatever, man, you have to have complainers. Don't get me wrong. People have to complain for things to change. But if you're going to complain, you better have some kind of action to back it up. Yeah, and that's the difference between a complainer and a problem solver. And you also have to understand that your solution may seem like this giant light bulb in your head until you propose it. And then you realize that things aren't as simple as you think they are. And it becomes a perspective thing. And it's the same way the other way too, I think, though. I think sometimes we get, in these ranks where we think that every idea we have is gold, and we fail to we hear what's said about it from, the other side of the organizational ladder, but we don't listen. Yeah. And, that's, you go back to what I said earlier with my guys and trainers, that, there needs to be a time where I step in, I put my foot down, but there also needed a time where I need to listen. And I think the hardest thing for me was the transition to understanding that, it's okay to do this job differently. If you don't want to pull hose the way that I pulled it, I'm going to have a problem with it because I think my way is better than yours, and I can probably prove it. We could probably put timers on, but if we're talking about 3 or 4 seconds and you still get in line where it needs to go, maybe I just need to shut up and let you do your thing. So
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for some awesome answers to the questions. The last section that we have is what we call the kitchen table, because as you know, that's where you just shoot shit and all the world's problems get created and solved. But basically what it means is all anything that you want to shout out, anything that either we didn't touch on as much as you want to, anything that came in your mind, any people, trainings, the rest of the time is all open for you.
Cool, man. Well, I will start with saying that I think this venture for you guys is really cool. I like the concept. I like the title. I think there's too many people out there that are new to the fire service. When I say new, I mean like less than 10 years, right? and they want to come out here, and you guys have an advantage that we didn't have coming up, right? Like you have this, like you have the ability to be like, man, I have an idea, I'm going to run with it. We didn't have that coming up, right? Like you had your fire department and maybe the guys next door, and that was the fire service to you. We didn't have any of this stuff. So, but I like the premise that, you know, you guys are just trying to pass it on and consider what came first before you considering what comes next. And I think that's a step that a lot of guys miss. I am finally old enough in my career that I'm starting to understand some of the things that I was told that I didn't understand back then, because I was young, I was dumb, I was naive. And I very much am too, but I'm also starting to understand that there's a lot of things that have been told to me that are 100% BS, that are shored up by people that rely on that BS to survive their career. You know, it becomes, you know, their purpose, I think, is just to perpetuate that so they don't get exposed for their own thing. So I think it's a cool deal, man. I wish more people, you know, metaphorically would take that approach to being a new dog with old tricks, right? It's a cool title. I dig it, man. So I want to commend you guys on that. I love the forum. I love how you ask the questions. I think it's a good deal, man. And there's 1,000 podcasts out there now that don't do it that way. So I definitely got to give you a shout for that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You know, I think anything else that we didn't talk about, my thing right now that I'm kind of falling on right now, man, is just, I wish people would be curious about the job. I think we've fallen into this lapse, I guess, where everybody wants to watch it on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or whatever new social media thing I'm not in because I'm old now. And, you know, by the way, do some little research if you're younger. All these social media platforms are just MySpace divided up into like quadrants of the internet. So it's nothing new, right? but man, like what I have started seeing, and again, and I hear it and I talk to people, I go to other departments and I teach and I see it, is that nobody wants to figure out anything anymore. They just want it done for them, and then they want to complain about it, which is wild to me. You know, if you're going to come in and ask me a question that I'm just going to Google, why can't you do that? You know, why have you not tried it? And don't get me wrong, dude, man, like if you're not a diesel mechanic and the engine's leaking oil, like I don't expect you to get on there with a ratchet and start tearing the thing down before you report it. Like that's not what we're talking here. But if you're the probationary firefighter and you get back from a call and the captain says, hey man, go fill up the can, and you don't know how, like, why don't you try to figure it out first? Or why don't you go ask another firefighter, ask the driver? Like, there's this bad habit in the fire service right now where the guys in the back seat bypass everything and they think they should have access to the battalion chief and the assistant chief and the fire chief. And they're asking questions at levels. And this is not to belittle anybody, but like, it's not at your level, right? Like, and I say that because you have just passed all these people in the middle of that. You've alienated them. You've taken away the ability of the senior guy and the engineer and the company officer to solve your problem or educate you, right? Or be in the loop at least. Because there's nothing worse, man, than your boss coming to you talking about something for your, you know, somebody on the crew asked them and you have no idea. You have no idea where it came from. So I just wish people would be curious. I wish they would try to figure things out. I wish they would take pride in learning how to do something and trying to fix their problem instead of just saying, hey, I wrote it on the paper, this is broke, and then they walk out. You know, I came up in a time where, you know, we didn't have facilities to come over and change light bulbs. Well, that's still the damnedest thing to me, is that a firehouse of grown men is calling somebody on the phone and say, hey, could you come fix this light bulb for us? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's not where you work. I don't know, but I know places like that, right? It's the same thing with a fire truck. You know, if the turn signal's out, why can't I just go to AutoZone and buy a light bulb, or go to the fleet shop and say, hey man, can I get this light bulb and replace it yourself? Like I don't know, man. We used to take pride in that. We used to paint our own fire stations. We used to clean stuff. We used to wax stuff. It wasn't busy work back then. It was pride. And now all the wonderful things that I remember being where we bonded in the informal sessions with the senior guys where you actually learn what the job is really about have been deleted by people that want to get on Facebook and sit in the corner of the firehouse by themselves and bitch that we don't have any of those moments anymore, while they are directly preventing those moments from happening. So I'll leave it with that, man. Be curious about the job. Encourage other people to be curious about the job. I think it's a good deal no matter how you slice it. I also think that if you've never worked anything but the fire service, you have a very small perspective of what a real job is like. And
Mm-hmm.
you think we don't get away with anything.
Oh my
in
God.
corporate America.
One of our engineers, I think, put it just perfectly, where he's like, tell me another job where your first order of business in the morning is to take a break.
Yeah,
honestly, we come in, we get our stuff on the rig. You got to do your checks. Like, I guess you're first, but then, hey, have your breakfast, have your coffee, have your like
morning meeting.
It's
right?
It's like, tell me another job where that's your first thing you got to get done is your break. Like, there's just it doesn't exist.
Man, we had a guy that used to work for us. He took a job at Amazon part-time because he was just at that point where he's like, man, like, I've worked so much overtime. I just need something mundane, right? Something that's not the fire service. I don't have to think. Yeah. I just want something that I just go to work, I punch a clock and do it. But he used to tell us that, like, when you go to Amazon, wherever you went for lunch was so far away from like wherever he worked at Amazon that in the time allotted, you couldn't get from your job position to the break room, eat, and get back in time. So like most people just didn't eat lunch because it was, if you didn't get back in time, you get yelled at.
Yeah.
So it's like, imagine at the firehouse, like these guys, man, you sit in the kitchen for 3.5 hours for lunch if there's no calls. Oh man, this place is horrible. They don't let us do it. You just took a 3-hour break. But we work 24-hour shifts. You ain't entitled to nothing, man. Like, what if you sleep all night? Is it still the same thing?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny, man. You damn right though. You come in and go on break. I've never heard it put like that, but it makes so much sense. Like, man, I'm wore out from putting my turnout gear on the truck. I even had to turn the air pack on. I'm exhausted. Let me go eat breakfast.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. Thanks for taking the time. It's some awesome answers and great wisdom to share. So really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man, I'm going to plug a couple things before we go, if we can. I'm pulling up my calendar here because I'm always bad at forgetting. So
absolutely, we love it.
I also do some teaching with a training group called the Rust Belt Jakes. A couple guys from your neck of the woods. We're kind of all over the place: Wisconsin, Ohio, Georgia, South Carolina, Maine. We're all over the place. But I think we put a pretty good product out there. We kind of focus on some things other people don't. So we have classes about search and hose and all that. But we do a pretty good class, in my opinion, for driver stuff. Nick Pepper, who's our founder, based on one of his classes called Left Seat Tactics and Tips, I think it's called. But it's all about being a functional driver. So if you see that stuff come around, we're on social media. We're going out to March Mayhem in Boise in March to do that class. God, I hope it's not freezing cold. We're shooting ice out of hose, but whatever.
You're accustomed now, huh? You're not used to the winters anymore.
No, it's not that. It's just like flowing water when it's cold. It's cold, man. I don't care. Frozen hydrants are a real thing. So, but yeah, no, I love the cold still. I'm one of the few people that wants to retire to snow again. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. So, but yeah, we'll be there, and then we'll be at Great Lakes Hot again this year up in Michigan, which is cool. We've got some other things throughout the year. I'm going to be up at the Key City Conference in March as well, which is in Maryland, doing my short staff class. And then I'll also be back to FDIC again, which is really cool. And I still haven't accepted. This will be my 3rd year. And like every year, I'm just like, is this the year I don't go back? Like I'm that one person that can't enjoy anything because I'm so terrified that I won't be back. I don't know why, but that's, if you've never been to FDIC, I would try to go. It's an experience, man. My first experience at FDIC was as an instructor, and I still didn't understand the scale of it. It's just it's insane. And then I know a lot of places. Sorry, I thought my phone was on silent. That's horrible. Rookie move. I know FDIC is really expensive, but if you're familiar with Marc Aloan, he's part of the Firefighter Air Coalition now. They are doing scholarships for FDIC. I think it's up to like 20 or 26. I don't want to quote it wrong, but if your department can't afford to send you, you can't afford to send yourself. That is an opportunity right there to get on and go to FDIC. So check out the Firefighter Air Coalition. I've taught for them. It's a great group, doing great things for the fire service. Let's see what else I got. I'll be at the South Carolina conference this year, which probably doesn't impact you guys from the Great White North. I don't think you're coming down, but hey, if you want a vacation in Myrtle Beach in June,
there you go.
We put on a great conference, man. It's great. They bring in a lot of awesome people from all over the place.
Definitely have to keep that in mind.
Good. You got to come? Like, I'm down, man. I'll take Myrtle Beach in June.
Wow.
But yeah, man. So that's all I got for now. I got some things. I'm working on some things teaching wise with some companies and stuff. So hopefully some new news this year. And again, also you can follow me on the Fire Inside. It's on the Fire Inside page you got to have the page in there. I think the Fire Inside was taken by some band or something, but the Fire Inside page is on Facebook. It's on Instagram. That's where I stop. I don't know how many other social media things I need. I'm trying to write more this year. I kind of took a break last year. I mean, I posted a little bit, but I really needed just kind of a break, I think, from everything. I need to focus on work. So if you follow me on that stuff, hopefully there'll be some content this year. And I really appreciate you guys doing this, man. I had a blast. This is one of the better ones I've done in a really long time. So thank you for this.
We really appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming on, and thank you everybody for listening. As always, don't be a shitbag.
Don't be a shitbag.